All right, welcome back to Exhaust Sports Auto. My name is Kevin, and if you are a fan of real engines, you may rejoice because Lexus has delivered to you the 5-liter V8 powered Lexus IS 500 F Sport Performance. This is the 2022 model year. So why is this vehicle special? Well, I just told you the main reason why it's special. It's got the F Performance derived / LC 500 derived 5-liter naturally aspirated V8, producing 472 horsepower and 395 pounds-feet of torque. In this world of nonsense, turbocharged, vacuum cleaning sounding motors from potentially the new AMG stuff, which is going to be all 4 cylinders, and BMW with their turbo inlines, and amongst all these vehicles, you now have a choice of getting a real, proper sounding vehicle. Now, I'm going to touch on the specifics in a little bit. I'm sure you've seen all the videos. Everybody and their mother has already made a video talking about this new 2022 IS 500, but I mentioned sound there. That's the most important thing with this vehicle. And Lexus has mentioned that this vehicle is going to sound similar to the RCF, and they actually had a promo video out, and they actually displayed to us what the vehicle kind of sort of sounded like, and they're right. It does sound similar to the RCF, and that's fine. That's not a bad sounding vehicle, but it is by no means their nuttiest sounding car or anything like that. That title for right now would have to go to the LC 500, which is the current vehicle that I have and own / lease. And the LC, man, aside from the LFA, right now, this is the loudest nutcracker of a vehicle that you can possibly get from Lexus. The way they tuned the exhaust on this thing is incredible. And I actually did a comparison between the RCF and my LC 500. And I actually did a comparison between the exhaust at the beginning. So I'm going to leave a link down to that video in the description box. You can check that out. And most everyone who watched that video kind of noticed the difference in tone between the two vehicles. I mean, not to hype up or jerk off my own car or anything like that, but the sound is very much significant. And when hitting downshifts in Sport Plus mode in the LC, I mean, it busts people's eardrums. It is pretty radical. The RCF is not really doing that, and I'm going to doubt that the IS 500 here is going to be doing that. You can pretty much think of this as like a ISF, essentially. A true F is to come. This is really branded as a F Sport Performance line. This is all new. This is the first model where they did this, because back in the day, F Sport, it was just kind of like a trim level thing. It was a huge misconception. They just thought it was a appearance package, but it was far more than that. It really truly changed certain vehicles. Like the previous generation IS that ran between 2014 to 2020, I wouldn't even consider buying that generation IS without the F Sport package. It made that much of a dramatic change. Now in other vehicles like the GS, it didn't really make a huge difference. So, it was kind of different for every vehicle, the F Sport package, but with the IS, that was mandatory. But I have not, unfortunately, driven the 2021 like IS 350 or whatever. So I don't know exactly how good it is, but it's obviously been improved. So that's the main thing that I like. The previous generation was one of my most favorite driving sports sedans that most people can practically afford. Now, the new one, they continue to improve it. They made the chassis developments, they made the suspension tweaks, and now for the IS 500, they continue to kind of perfect it and fine tune it as well. So that's great. And that's the other thing. So Lexus is not really interpreted too well by either journalists or even by the consumers. There's this huge misconception about these vehicles. A lot of it has to do with the lack of advertising. I don't think Lexus is branding and advertising themselves properly, really, because BMW, they got the whole ultimate driving machine thing going on, and Mercedes has the whole slogan where it's the best or nothing, basically. Really, that slogan only applies to the S-Class, which nobody can afford, so who cares? But to most consumers, when they hear that, they think every Mercedes is the best or nothing, even like a little CLA, basically. And they think every BMW is the ultimate driving machine, even the new front-wheel drive 2 Series. So they have the branding down, these German cars. But Lexus, all of these Lexus products, F cars and LC aside, all of them, even the previous gen IS 350 F Sport, to me, was a very character-filled, soulful driving experience. It sounds stupid to say that, but it's true. It's the best way I can describe it. It had an emotional value and characteristic to it that just made it so enjoyable to drive, especially compared to its forced induction counterparts, especially the German cars. That's my problem. So I've driven the cars that a lot of you people like to jerk off to, like the F80 M3, okay? Dynamically, I love driving the M3. However, that motor, that inline six engine that they put in there with the turbocharged, it sounds like pure, like it sounds like a trash can. I'm sorry. It is not a good sounding vehicle. I've driven the B58 engines, and that's fine because it's toned down. It's just a smooth inline six. But with the M3s, they put like this exhaust on it, and it was just the most uninspiring sounding vehicle ever. That was the biggest disappointment with me with that vehicle. And with the new AMGs going all inline 4 cylinders for the C-Class, that really sucks. So Lexus continuing this 5-liter V8 tradition, you got to respect it, and I hope many of you take advantage of this car. Even though it doesn't sound as good as the LC500, it still sounds better than pretty much 99% of the cars out there. In my RCF review, I said put an NVIDIA exhaust on that car because I don't like to modify cars. I don't like to tell people to modify their cars, but this is the one instance this 5-liter V8 just sounds too good. And in the RCF, it was just too muffled. It had a lot more to offer. So that's why I suggested putting an NVIDIA exhaust on there. There was a viewer of mine who saw that review, and he had an orange 2015 RCF. He posted a video on YouTube with this car with the NVIDIA exhaust. It sounded thunderous. That really woke up the engine. That's something you could probably do with the IS 500 as well. But either way, out of the box, it's going to sound better than 99% of cars out there. So with that established, let's go ahead and let's talk about the specifications, what this car has to offer here. So it's got 472 horsepower, 395 pounds-feet of torque, like I already mentioned, does 0 to 60 in about 4.5 seconds. That was impressive about 10 years ago, but nowadays, if you want to be a spec sheet queen, you got to be doing 2.5 seconds, baby. All-wheel drive, twin turbos, all that stuff. Will that exist? Potentially. I feel like if they made a proper ISF, it'll probably have to be a twin turbo V8 and all-wheel drive. But that has not been confirmed yet. We don't know anything about that, so that's just speculation. But as of right now, okay, they actually had to raise the hood about 2 inches to basically fit this 5-liter V8. It's got some 19-inch wheels on it, N-key wheels. And the weight figure of this thing, it's about 3,891 pounds. So it's only gained about 143 pounds over the IS 350 F Sport 2021, of course. And we don't know the exact MPGs, but even Lexus is estimating 24 MPGs on the highway. So not bad. Probably about the same as the LC and the RCF. Probably get about 16, 17 cities, something like that. It's going to have quad tip exhausts, of course, and it's going to be stacked like the RCF cars. Like I mentioned before, it should sound similar to the RCF as well. It's going to have all the little modes, a Sport Plus, all that stuff. It's going to, adjust the electronic steering rack. And again, this vehicle has continued to be fine-tuned. Like I mentioned, it's a character-filled driving experience. This is almost like the Porsche 911 where they continue to make these small incremental changes, but it ends up being a huge difference. So in Japan, that's called a Kaizen mentality, basically. So they're making these little changes. That's what they continue to do for 2021. And even though I haven't driven it, I just know just from the press releases that it's just a superior driving experience even to the older 2020 IS. Now for this 2022 IS 500, they even added a Yamaha damper basically, and we saw a Yamaha damper being used in the LC 500 convertible, and I did do a review on that vehicle as well, and that vehicle rode like butter and I loved it. I'd be curious to see how this new IS 500 rides, but it should be pretty good. Lexus is a company that hardly ever compromises. That's what I like. It's got great driving dynamics, but it doesn't ride like shit either, so that's the best part. But yeah, again, of course, with the added weight, they continue to do some more suspension tweaks, and one of the main chassis changes was that Yamaha damper. And of course, it's going to have the F Sport handling package. It's going to have the adaptive variable suspension, which in my opinion never really does much of anything when you switch the modes, but whatever, it's got it. It's got the Torsen limited slip diff, LSD, of course, so that's going to help with the straight line stability as well, so it's great to see them adding that. Brakes, it's going to have 14-inch rotors up front, 2-piece aluminum rotors that is, and 12.7-inch rotors in the rear. And these N-key wheels, they're going to be 19 inches, 10 spokes, and these wheels are going to weigh 1 pound less per wheel up front and 2 pounds lighter in the rear, each wheel in the back, compared to the 19-inch F Sport wheels. So very impressive. That's also going to help with the agility and handling of this vehicle as well. And of course, this vehicle is going to have all the safety crap. So if you don't know how to drive, this is going to be good. You know, Lexus Safety System Plus, 2.5s, all that. It's going to have the Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, all that good stuff. So, you know, it should be covered there. It's got all the latest tech nonsense. And there is no all-wheel drive option for right now. It's only going to be rear-wheel drive for this IS 500 F Sport Performance. But if they do make an ISF, if they actually go through with it, if it's going to be an actual twin turbocharged V8, then rear wheel drive is not going to cut it. That's just way too much power, like damn near 500-600 horsepower going to the rear wheels only. It's not going to cut it. So it's going to need all wheel drive. And maybe that could be the potential spec sheet queen that Lexus needs. You know, does 0 to 60 in 3 seconds flat or even less. I was actually going to make another video talking about this, like what Lexus could do to improve their perception, because sales-wise, Lexus does just fine. They're up there with Mercedes and BMW. Actually, Audi is one of the worst-selling luxury car companies in the United States. Not the worst, but you know what I mean. It's not as good as Mercedes and BMW and Lexus. So no, it's not going to help their sales, stuff like this, but it's going to help their perception, basically, because all these journalists, they have this thing where there's like, oh, there's nice daily driving cruiser cars. But in actuality, in my opinion, of all the cars I've driven, it's been one of my more favorite driving vehicles and experiences as well. I'm no fanboy. I don't like fanboyism, but, you know, credit where credit is due. They make a damn good car, Lexus, and, you know, LC500 is a testament to that, and that's why I personally leased one. But this car, for sure, I do hope people take advantage of this. Now, pricing has not been released yet, but we can assume it's going to be similar to an RCF pricing. RCF started around $65,000. This might be a little bit less, like $60,000, something like that. I spec'd out an IS 350 all-wheel drive F Sport the way I liked it. It was about $47,000. They can go up to over $50,000, of course, but I think this will be a little over $60,000 to start. But again, we don't know for sure. But regardless, I think this for sure is a car that I hope you guys take advantage of. You know, Lexus people, I respect them because they usually put their money where their mouth is, and they actually invest in these cars. They actually do purchase these cars. And this, it's not a bad investment because I don't think this is going to lose much in value, because this is going to be very sought after. It's been a very reliable motor, the 5-liter V8, and it's going to sound incredible. Should have nice exhaust system options on there like NVIDIA. It could sound incredible. So it's practical. It's 4 doors. I hope people take advantage of it. And yeah, please do let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, what you think about the new IS 500. Do you respect the fact that Lexus continues to keep this 5-liter V8 despite the emissions, despite the competition going all turbo and all this stuff? What do you think? And should they actually go through and actually make a proper ISF? Please do let me know your thoughts. But these are mine. So thank you again for watching. Take care and goodbye.